Welcome to the Long Gallery. This is one of the most beautiful parts of Towneley Hall. We are surrounded by some beautiful paintings of the famous Towneley family. We're now going to turn the clock back in time to a very, very sad period of British history and the English Civil War. How and why did it start? Well, it started for two reasons. First of all, King Charles I was not too happy with Parliament and Parliament having a bit more power. At the same time, Parliament were not too happy with the King, and they felt it was about time this country was run by Parliament, not by the royal family. So therefore war was declared in the year 1642. The country was split. Those people who wished to fight for the King were known simply as Royalists, and those people who wished to fight for Parliament were known as Parliamentarians, commonly known as Roundheads and Cavaliers. Now, the Towneley family were ardent followers of the King, and they were Royalists. We're now going to cover a very sad and a very, very tragic story of an exceptionally brave man known simply as Charles Towneley. He fought for the King. Now, Charles Towneley was no coward, very, very brave man, as you're about to find out. He was involved in one of the most decisive battles in the history of the English Civil War, the Battle of Marston Moor, which took place on the 2nd of July, 1644. Prior to the battle, he had been involved in quite a few skirmishes across Lancashire with his good friend Sir Gilbert Houghton from Houghton Towers. Now then, Marston Moor is about 7 miles from the city of York, and the battles at that period of time were very, very prominent in Yorkshire. The two armies met around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Prince Rupert had just left Clitheroe with the main bulk of the Royalist forces, and they met around 3 o'clock in the afternoon in pouring rain. For a while, the two armies just stared at each other, and then they advanced. The saturated ground made the fighting very, very, very hard. You can only imagine the sheer terror as the cavalry advanced and how the infantry tried to repulse them, and the screams of those men coming face to face with death. At the end of that terrible day, the Battle of Marston Moor claimed over 7,000 men from both sides. Of course, the Prince's army were completely defeated, and this really did hammer a nail into the Royalist cause. One of the fatalities that day was none other than Charles Towneley. His wife Mary had been waiting at nearby Nid Hall, and when she heard of the terrible outcome, she went in search of her husband's body. She arrived at Marston Moor and was met by a horrible scene of those men who had lost their lives being stripped of their uniforms and thrown into a large burial pit. She came across the body of Charles. She passionately kissed his hand, and as the tears ran down her cheeks, she came across a young parliamentarian officer who obviously felt concerned for her safety and said, "Ma'am, do not worry, I shall escort you from the battlefield back to your home and give you safe conduct all the way." She arrived back at Nid Hall with the cavalry officer and indeed a detachment of his men, and on him leaving, she asked, "Who was this officer who showed me kindness?" "Ma'am, he is Oliver Cromwell." Of course, Oliver Cromwell was later to become the head of this country and indeed the supreme commander of all parliamentarian forces. As we look at this painting, it does in fact depict that terribly sad day, the Battle of Marston Moor, 2nd of July, 1644. Oliver Cromwell, love him or hate him, he certainly changed politics for life in this country. He was an ardent Protestant. As you've gathered, he was no friend of the King whatsoever, and really felt that the people of this country should be run by members of Parliament, not the royal family. The war took the lives of many, many men, and in many cases brother fought brother. But at the end of that terrible, terrible war, Cromwell became the head of the Republic of this country. He was also the only member of Parliament, leader of Parliament, ever to have a member of the royal family actually executed. And King Charles I was the first member of that family to be executed. For a while, this country was indeed a republic. After Cromwell passed away, the government got together and they thought, let's reinstate the king, but with not as much power as his predecessor. And really, Cromwell's legacy still stays with us this very, very day, because we have a parliament with all the power and a royal family that has little say in the running of this country. When King Charles II was reinstated, he had all those people that had signed his father's death warrant rounded up. He also had Cromwell's body actually exhumed and hung, but the damage had been done many, many years before. Of course, here at Towneley Hall, Cromwell stands proudly here in the Long Gallery, but was no friend of the Towneley family and indeed the royalist cause. I think you'll all agree that Charles Towneley was undoubtedly a very, very brave man.